What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight UK, Season 20, Episode 7. This is the episode of the homestays. And so they get to go visit their partner's hometown, meet their family, see where they live, etc. So let's start off with Keisha and Kwame. So they go visit Kwame's hometown. And the purpose of this assignment was for Kwame to introduce Keisha to his family members and for her to see what kind of home he lives in so she can kind of get a better understanding of who Kwame is. But Kwame refused to invite her to his home or to meet his family. And his excuse was that he's a very private person, that he's very secretive and guarded. And so he doesn't want to do that right now. And he says he doesn't have to do that. And so she was like, kind of like, you could tell that Keisha was hurt. But Keisha is someone who, she always feels like she has to put up a very strong front and that she can never show any weakness or any pain or anything like that, because I felt like she was hurt that he didn't want her to meet his family or to see, not even to see his home, but she was trying to keep it together. So Keisha says, but you knew what you signed up for when you signed up for this experiment. And he was like, yeah, but I don't have to show all of myself. True enough, you don't have to show all of yourself, Kwame, but this is an integral part of the process, is for her to meet your family and for the two of you to, for her to see where you live so that y'all can get closer and get to know each other better. This is like a very important part of the process, is to meet each other's families. And so we understand that you don't have to tell us every little thing, every little detail about your life, but you did her a disservice. You did yourself a disservice by refusing to fully participate in this stage of the experiment. So after that, they go have dinner with his friends. And I think somewhere during dinner, Kwame says that he feels very close to Keisha, I think. And it kind of like slipped out when he said that. And so Keisha was like, wait a minute, you feel close to me? And he was like, yeah, why are you acting surprised? And she says, because you never expressed how you feel about me. And he goes, of course I have. And she's like, no, I would have known. You have never really expressed how you feel about me. And so she was really taken by surprise by that. And Kwame just really struggles with expressing his feelings for her. He says that he's treading very carefully, and that as long as they are in this process, i.e. on this show, he is going to be very guarded and he is not going to be like 100% himself. But once this process is over, or once they're no longer on the show, then he's going to be able to give Keisha like 110% of who he is. And I really didn't understand like why you're even on this show if you're going to be so guarded and you're going to be holding so much back. Like, why are you on a reality TV show that's all about feelings and connecting with someone and giving all of yourself and being very vulnerable and being very open? I don't get it. If you want to be all closed up and you don't want to give any information, you don't want to reveal who you really... Now, what I really want to know, Kwame, are you trying to be guarded against us, the show, the viewers, all of this, or are you trying to be guarded against Keisha? Like, if they would have matched you with somebody else, would you be more open? That is my question. Let's move on to Shanita and Jordan. So Shanita and Jordan went to go see Jordan's hometown. She got to meet his mom. And when they were having lunch or dinner with his mom, she was telling a very funny story about Jordan when he was a child, as she was showing Shanita baby pictures and childhood pictures. So she tells the story of Jordan when he was a little boy. He had wrapped chewing gum around his willy, and how it was like it took a while to get it all off. And it was a really funny story, and Jordan was begging his mom to just shut up, but she just kept on going and going and going. That was a really funny moment. Then we move on to Jenna and Zoe. So they're visiting Jenna's home. Zoe got to meet Jenna's mom and Jenna's sister, and the mother asked about their plans after the process. Jenna says that they really haven't talked about the future. Jenna says that she could definitely see Zoe living in her home, living in her hometown. She can definitely see, picture her and Zoe, I guess, starting their new life in her hometown. And I don't know if Zoe was too crazy about that from the look on her face. Zoe says that, I don't think she really said one way or the other, but Jenna did say, if she can find a job here, then she can definitely see them living there. But I'm not really sure exactly how Zoe feels about that. Moving on to April and George. So they both go visit George's house in George's hometown. April says that the commitment ceremony went really well because they received very good advice about not letting outsiders influence or affect their relationship, i.e. Thomas. So the next day they're having dinner with George's mom and his stepdad. Now this dinner scene to me was extremely tense. We all know that George struggles with trusting people, trusting women, and he is very insecure and untrustworthy, and he's not untrustworthy, he's untrustworthy of other people, and because he's been cheated on, right? He's experienced infidelity. He was the victim of infidelity, so trusting people, trusting women is very difficult for him. So this is like an uphill struggle for April to constantly reassure him that, hey, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to cheat on you. He's very insecure, he's jealous, he's the kind of person where he has to know where she is, what she's doing, who she's with all the time. And I think this constant reassuring is going to it's going to affect her. It's going to wear on her eventually, because in the beginning you're like, oh, I'm just reassuring my man that I'm not doing anything. But then when this becomes a part of your life and it becomes a part of your daily life, you're going to reach a breaking point. So she asks George's mother, what can I do to gain his trust? I think that's what she asked him. She did explain to his parents that trust is an issue in their relationship. And so she was asking for advice. So the mother says that she wants him to be with a woman that he can trust and that he won't have to worry what they're up to all the time. And I felt like that type of advice put a burden on whoever George is with, like put a burden on April instead of putting the burden on George to be stronger, to have more trust, and to get over his insecurities, which I think that's what's going to help the relationship. That George has to fix himself, not allowing him to continue to be insecure and distrustful, and April having the burden of constantly reassuring him, or April trying to fix his insecurities. He has to fix that within himself. But the mother kind of acted like, well, if he's with the right woman, he'll be fine. No, he's not going to be fine if he's with the right woman. He has issues that he needs to overcome. He needs to get over his past relationships, and he cannot always assume that whoever he's going to be with now or in the future, that they're going to treat him the way his ex treated him. And he's constantly reliving the past and living in fear of the past repeating itself. And that's not April's job to fix him. He needs to go get therapy or have a very look at himself deeply within and try to fix himself. It's his problem. So I felt like the mother, when April said, well, can you give us some advice on how to deal with this issue? I think that the mother should have looked at her son and said, George, you need to snap out of this and get it together. April has shown no signs of being unfaithful or like she's going to hurt you. You need to trust her until she gives you a reason not to. That's what should have happened. But the mom was very I felt like she was coddling him. I felt like she was feeding into his insecurities. It was so tense because, George is never really happy. He's always down in the dumps. He's always he overthinks and overanalyzes everything in this relationship. And he constantly stays in his head. And the mom started crying. The mother was crying, thinking about her poor George and how the world has done him so wrong. And he just needs to find the right woman to help him get out of this. And the mom is crying and George is down in the dumps. And the stepdad was just I don't know what was going on with the stepdad. He was frozen. And April, is trying to make the best of it. It was a very tense scene. This was another homestay that I feel did not go very well at all. Moving on to Sophie and Jonathan. So they are visiting Jonathan's hometown, and Sophie, she's from the big city. I'm assuming she's from London. I don't know, but she's from a bigger city, and Jonathan was from a smaller town. And so she really didn't care for the whole small town feel. She was there's no designer shops here. It's very small, and she really wasn't feeling it. So Jonathan said that he's had a really tough week because everybody has been on his case about how he talks to people and how he is unaware when he's hurting other people's feelings by the things that he says, because he believes in being blunt and honest all the time. So the next day they meet with Jonathan's mom, and the mother agrees that Jonathan does have a problem, that he has no clue on how to control his brutal honesty, and he doesn't know how to be aware of how his words affect other people. And when you point that out to him, his mother says he doesn't back down. He just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And Sophie says she's noticed that too, that when it's pointed out to him, you would think that he would kind of self-reflect or at least shut up. But no, he just keeps on going and try to prove his point that he's right and everybody else is wrong, and how people just need to suck it up and just be able to take it. And, he's just being honest, and he doesn't have any intentions to hurt anybody, but he's just speaking his mind, and you just gotta have to accept it. So, yeah. I'm glad that the mother agreed with Sophie, and I hope that because his mother agreed with Sophie that he, will look at things a little bit differently from here on out, but who knows. So then then we go to Thomas and Adrian. So as we know, Thomas and Adrian, when they first got married, Thomas did not have family there, but he had his best friend at the wedding, and her name is Katie. And Katie and Adrian clashed, right? Because Katie was just throwing all of these questions at Thomas, and I said Thomas and Katie clashed, not Adrian and Katie. Thomas and Katie clashed, and because she was asking so many questions that Thomas was getting frustrated and felt like a lot of it was none of her business, and he was trying to get to know Adrian better, but he kept on having to answer all these questions from Katie. So Katie really didn't care for Thomas didn't care for Katie, and that's where we're at. So when they go visit Adrian's hometown, they meet up with Katie. And Katie tells us that she thought that the wedding was very traumatic. And Katie and Thomas, they didn't see it for each other at all. And Katie says that she didn't even want to do this meeting that they were having with Thomas and Adrian. She didn't even want to participate in that. That's how turned off she was with Thomas. So they tell Katie that, Thomas has calmed down a whole lot, that Adrian has been like a very positive influence over Thomas, and that he is making changes, and, things are getting a little bit better, and things have definitely improved. So Katie feels a little bit more secure. She feels a little bit better about their relationship. And so then Adrian and Katie have a chance to talk in private. And Adrian tells Katie that everything with Thomas is okay, except when they're in a social setting, because you don't know what's going to trigger Thomas, and once he's triggered, you can't stop him. It's very, very difficult to bring him back, to calm him back down. So that's going to be the true test of how much improvement Thomas has made, is when they continue to go to these social settings. So then last but not least, we have Whitney and Matt, the cheaters. So they don't have a homestay thing. Instead, they're going to visit with Whitney and Matt. Ever since Whitney has been on this show, she's been exempt from certain exercises. Some exercise she's had to do with a Duca, like whatever it was. But I do remember that once her and Duca had made some type of a breakthrough, they were supposed to do some type of exercise that everybody else was doing, but they got exempt from that. And instead they just went out to dinner or something. And then Whitney and Matt, they were exempt from the homestays because, they're a new couple. Once, their respective spouses left them, they decided to get together, and their spouses left them because they cheated on their spouses with each other. So now they're meeting with the experts, and the experts tell Whitney that she came across as really selfish and uncaring to Gemma's feelings, because she expressed that. She was like, I'm sorry that you feel bad about it, but hey, I need to be happy, and your man's making me happy, and that's just how it is. So they've told her that she was a little bit insensitive when it came to Gemma's feelings, as was Matt. And Matt says that he understands that what they did was wrong, but it felt so right. He sounded like an 80s R&B song. So the male expert, I forget his name, the male expert, he says that he cannot endorse them coming back to the project as a couple because they both broke their vows. And Matt and Whitney, they basically beg for the experts to help them navigate through this newfound relationship. They want to be back on the show. They want to be back on the show as a couple, and they desperately need the experts' help. And so the male expert says, that Whitney seems a lot lighter. She seems a lot happier because when Whitney started off in this process, from her wedding day up until Duca left, Whitney has been miserable. And she has shown it. You know, she's the kind of person you're going to know when she's miserable. She's not going to hide a damn thing. So he does admit, the male expert, he does admit that, okay, yeah, you know, you seem a lot happier, and, you know, we like the new Whitney. So the experts say that they do see something real between them, and that they're going to allow them back on, but not as a married couple. They're going to be back on as a dating couple. So, of course, they were going to keep them on the show. Come on now. It's just too juicy and too dramatic to not put them back on the show, because they're going to get a lot of flack from the other couples. They're going to be seen as, you know, the couple that cheated on their spouses. And, you know, we're going to see once and for all if how you get them is how you lose them. Are they going to be able to withstand the test of time, or are they also going to, you know, run into some challenges that they cannot overcome? So yeah, this was a pretty decent episode. Yeah, and that's that. So we'll see how it works out for Whitney and Matt. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.